Today we are going to be comparing two of the most popular entry-level bikes for mountain biking by two of the most popular brands around. I'm talking about none other than the Giant Talon 29.1 and the Specialized Rockhopper Comp. Before we get too hot and heavy in today's subject, I would ask if you enjoy this content and enjoy the channel, please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification because that will alert you whenever I do new content. I'm trying to work on some new 2023s. Why are you texting? But before we actually do get to the bicycles, I do need to put a little disclaimer. I am a big fan of Giant and their products, and I am a big disliker of Specialized as a company, and I'm gonna try my hardest to take a step back, look at this objectively, kind of give you the pros and cons of both of these bicycles, both of these mountain bikes, because Specialized does make decent products. I just do not like them as a company. Let's get to the bikes. Let's first start with the Specialized Rockhopper. We're going to be comparing these per price point, not spec, because that's important. So the Giant Talon 129, we're talking 950 bucks. We're talking complete retail prices here, not sale prices. The Rockhopper Comp 29 is also $950. Not gonna talk too much on geometry. They're both just entry-level hardtails. These bikes are meant to get you out on the trail and get you involved in mountain biking, get you liking mountain biking so you come back and potentially upgrade to something nicer one day. That's what these bikes are designed for. So the Specialized frame is just, it's gonna be a aluminum frame set. This one is probably, I don't know what factory this comes out of, but if you didn't know, big majority of them is owned by Merida Bicycles. Merida is one of the biggest bike manufacturers in the world. And then Giant is a Taiwanese company, and they are the biggest bike manufacturer in the world. So these two are pretty interesting to compare. The suspension on the Specialized is an SR Suntour XCM 29. It does have 30mm stanchions, and it is simply a coil spring. Depending on the size, it is a 90 or a 100 travel. The brakes on the Specialized are SRAM levels. They're just two piston hydraulic brakes. You do get a 180 in the front and a 160 rotor in the rear. And then moving on to the drivetrain of the Specialized, it is micro-shift advent. That's a 1x9 with a clutch. So this is probably one of the best cheap ways to kind of get into a 1x system. It is an 1142 cassette, so you still get a pretty decent gear range, but it is a 9-speed, so the shifts, the jumps between gears are going to be somewhat large, but again, this is an entry-level bicycle, so you're probably not gonna really know the difference until you start riding for a little while. The wheels are decent. They're double wall rims, nothing to really write home about. They're OEM Formula hubs. This is kind of all subject to the year. I've worked on Formula hubs and they are complete garbage. I've worked on Formula hubs that last forever. Correction, the Talon 1 is $980, so they have kind of went up for the brand new model year. Maybe the 2020, where was I getting both of them were the same price? I don't know. But this bike is $980, so $30 more than the Specialized Rockhopper Comp. Let's see, before I get too heavy in this, the Rockhopper Comp 29, they do a $950 version and they do a $1,000 version. So why would they do, what is the $50 difference? I mean, they're completely sold out of the $1,000 version. I'm just curious what the difference is. Why would you do a bike $50 apart? So it's still micro shift. The brakes on the $1,000 one are Tektros. It's got Shimano hubs. That's your $50, so it's gonna have maybe a little bit nicer wheels. They're not tubeless though, and you're still getting the same fork. So I guess we can just compare it to both. This has gotta be maybe a year change thing. Quick comment on that. Even though Giant is still putting like 2021 and 2022, if you want a Giant Talon 29.1, the 2021 bikes are on sale. On sale by quite a bit. I think they're like $780, but we're not talking about the sale price, but I just wanted to mention that because if you get a 2022 model, it is not on sale. What did they change between the 2 years? Absolutely nothing. Other than probably shipping. Shipping has been all over the place as far as what it costs. And a lot of companies are doing that. So maybe that's what Specialized did with these two models. Maybe one's a 2022, one's a 2021. I can't really see another reason why they would do a bike at $950 and then $1,000 in the same year. Doesn't make much sense, but from what I'm seeing right here, the only real big difference is the brakes change. You get Tektros instead of SRAMs, and then you do get a nicer wheel set. Really, it's just nicer hubs. The rims and spokes are the same, but the hubs are gonna be nicer for 50 more bucks. So we'll throw that other bike in the mix. But let's go through the specs on the Talon 1. It is a Lux grade aluminum, so whatever that means. You do get much nicer drivetrain. You are getting the Dior 10 speed. This is not the Dior 12 speed. So this is the Dior 10 speed that works great. I do prefer it over the Microshift Advent stuff. You are getting 1142, so the range is exactly the same as what you're getting on the Specialized, but you are gonna have one more gear packed in there, so the shift points are gonna be a little bit different, which is nice. The brakes are gonna be Tektros, so nothing to write home about, but they work great. Front's 180, rear's 160. That's the exact same that comes on the Specialized. Actually, one of those, I think the $1,000 Specialized was coming with Tektro brakes. But where Giant pulls away for me for $980, so even if you're comparing it to the cheaper Specialized, you're getting an air shock, dude. That's pretty huge on a sub $1,000 bike. So you're getting an SXC32-2 RL air spring. It is still gonna be quick release. It's an air fork on a sub $1,000 bike. That's pretty big. So why is that big? Why do you want an air fork? Basically, think about all the other forks that are lower than this. They'll call them coil spring or even an air spring, because they kinda will have this like air cartridge in there that's preset from the factory. The only thing you can adjust on those is preload. So preload is essentially, think of having a spring in there, and then as you wrench down on the top of the fork where the preload adjustment is, you're just compressing that spring down, so it's gonna make it more firm, but you can't really adjust it for your body weight. It depends on the model. Like, let's say we're looking at a large frame bike, they'll usually set it for somebody that weighs about 180 to 200 pounds, so it's almost a guess. But if you weigh 135 pounds, but you're super freaking tall, that bike's gonna ride super stiff. You can't adjust it. And for all intents and purposes, we nickname them the pogo sticks, because that's what they feel like. It's better than nothing sometimes, but it's a pogo stick. With an air fork, you actually adjust it to your body weight. So you take a little cap off, thread on a shock pump away. If you weigh 130 pounds, we will set the suspension up for you. If you weigh 180 pounds, we'll set the suspension up for you. And it feels, the compression is way better on these things. Even on a cheap air fork, they ride so much nicer. That's the biggest thing. There's not a lot of like springy rebound. You can control the rebound a little better with an air fork, actually a lot better. That's kind of what you're paying for when you're upgrading to an air fork, but on this bike, it comes with an air fork, which is great. But then the rest of the stuff is really comparable to the Specialized, like the rims are Giant's OEM rims. Let's look at the hubs. What are those? Yeah, they're just gonna be Giant. Interesting to note, Giant does make all the components for DT Swiss. Actually, a lot of Giant wheels used to say like Giant, and then right underneath it say like DT Swiss. So they make decent stuff, but it's just gonna be like alloy hubs with ball bearings in it, nothing to write home about. But if we're comparing either one of the bikes, the one at the $1,000 price point or the one at the $950 price point, to the Giant, which is smack in the middle at $980, I still think the Giant is a much, much better buy. And I'm trying to keep it completely objective here, but your big upgrades that you get with the Giant, you get the Shimano Dior drivetrain, which is awesome, minus the cranks. Both companies kind of do a little savings here with the cranks. You get some Pro Wheel, which is just an OEM crank set with the Giant. With the Rockhopper, what crank are you getting? A Stout, so it's all OEM stuff. But you get Microshift on the Specialized, which I think Microshift is a little bit of a knockdown, especially with that Advent 1x9, when the Shimano Dior is a 1x10. The Dior stuff works great, man. Knock on fake IKEA wood. I've never had a problem out of the Dior line. But you're getting a complete drivetrain upgrade. You're getting an air fork, which is huge. Price point's very comparable. At least in this versus video, I'm going to give the tick mark to Giant. If you have another bike that you would like me to compare the Talon with, I would be more than happy to. But yeah, that's what I got for you today. I just wanted to compare probably two of the most popular entry-level bikes. Trek has their version as well. That one's probably even more money because it's a Trek. That's what I got for you guys. I just wanted to throw it out here. I love you all. I will see you in the next one. Later.